The second most important event in the Middle Ages was that in 1241 Mongols attacked Europe. Mongolia had already occupied the Principality of Kyiv, the Principality of Novgorod, and the Russian Rusu countries. However, in 1240, they invaded Legnica, Hungary and Poland. And just 2 days later, they entered Mohi, Hungary, and completely defeated the European army. The Polish and German knights allied forces, followed by the Hungarian army, totally wiped out the entire army of 40,000 soldiers in a short period of time. The Mongol invasion had a devastating effect on the Europeans that reminded them of the fear of the Huns, who had caused the great migration of Germanic peoples in the past. The meaning of the collapse of Hungary and Poland was that the Mongols invaded Austria, and if they approached north to the east, the new Roman Empire, and if they went down to the south, they would attack the Roman Empire. So the whole of Europe was a candlelight in the wind, but suddenly the Mongol army disappeared. They disappeared because at that time Ogotai, the son of Genghis Khan, the second emperor of Mongolia, died suddenly. The Mongol army withdrew to Mongolia suddenly. They tried to attend the Kurultai ceremony, which was the power succession tribal chiefs meeting in Mongolia. So even when Europe was revived from a terrible crisis, candlelight in the wind situation, after fighting with the Mongol army, they were totally crushed. Because they had trusted that they were the army of God, but they realized that was an absolute delusion. The final, decisive and fatal event was the spread of the Black Death in 1347. The Black Death, in other words, the bubonic plague, came through Italy and spread to the Scandinavian peninsula at the far end of Europe and across the Strait of Dover to England, killing 15 million people in just 3 years. Huge numbers of people died from the plague, since 1/3 of the total European population had died. It meant that 1 or 2 people in each household had died. This plague not only killed a lot of people, but it also spread very quickly. In the past, normally, infectious disease did not spread widely, killing only the people in or near the place, the area where the disease originated. However, at that time, the Black Death completely changed the old concept of the epidemic. With the appearance of the Black Death, Europe completely changed its way of life, thinking, and culture in European society. The first major event was the collapse of the manor system. The manor supported the feudal system of Europe, and the feudal lord usually lived in the middle of a large farm. The feudal lord divided the farmland and handed it over to the serfs, and the serfs cultivated and produced products and paid taxes. This was the basic concept of the medieval manor economy system. However, the manor system collapsed because a lot of farmers died from the plague and could not cultivate on farms. Second, since they could not farm anymore, all those people went into the city and started doing trading business. In the past, merchants were only a minority class, but from then on, many people participated and business became common. Then, as the trade business became more and more common, everyone who had lived together and lived a group-oriented life in the past, from then on, began to live an individual-oriented life. The next big issue was the clergy who lived in monasteries, which had the most deaths at that time, and they failed to keep the social distance that has been practiced nowadays because they did not know the cause of the epidemic and its nature. If they had known the nature of the virus, like the pandemic COVID-19 that we are experiencing these days, they would have practiced the social distance. They never knew how the epidemic was spreading, so they thought that all they had to do was pray together with all their hearts. So many priests gathered in one place in the monastery and all died. So many priests disappeared. So anyone who lacked qualifications became a priest. Even these illiterate or uneducated people became priests. Therefore, generally the quality of Catholicism deteriorated a lot, and this vicious cycle occurred, where it should be religiously holy, but immoral behavior appeared. After that, many people died from infectious disease, so too many people did not know whether they would die today or tomorrow, and because there was no guarantee of life or death, those who believed were more likely to believe, but most people tended to let it happen. So many people who should have been holy and sacred were freed from religious restraints and moral bondage, and thus the seeds of the Renaissance and the Reformation were sown and sprouted.